Hey, family. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I had to remember what time it was. Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Financial Matters. Why? Because financials matter. This is our monthly broadcast where we bring on guests and talk about financial issues from a realistic perspective. Um, And this month, we're taking a little detour from how we normally do it, where we talk about investments or we talk about um, insurance, financial planning, as it were. But this month, I want to talk to entrepreneurs from a financial perspective. I'm an entrepreneur. I own my own business, and I'm fortunate and blessed to have a business degree. I'm not just a pastor, not just a bishop, but I have a business degree. And so running a business is not that hard for me because I have the educational background. But a lot of times, pastors or people that are just getting into entrepreneurship, had a dream, had a product they made, or had a service that they wanted to give. And they're just now realizing that it takes a whole lot more to run a business than just running the business. And there's a whole marketing and public relations and branding that goes along with your business, especially in this digital age. Um, Clear Faith Christian Ministries is going through a rebranding where we're adding workbooks and training materials that I have written that we're marketing now as a part of our discipleship ministry. So we're expanding our reach. Um, Clear Faith Christian Counseling, Consulting, and Coaching Services rebranded and became Clear Faith Christian Counseling and Coaching. Why? Because that's what I do. I counsel and I coach. I don't do a lot of consulting. So why have the name if it don't fit the game? So we took it out and we rebranded and retooled. But I did it with help. I did it with people that are more versed than I am. And so I thought it would be important to bring on a person who is versed in PR and versed in, marketing and branding and all that good stuff. And, is more in that lane than I am. And I really wanted to reach out to entrepreneurs who may be struggling with the financial side of PR and the financial side of branding and all of that. And so uh, I came across a young lady who is versed in that area in PR. And we're bringing her on to talk about what she does. And you know how we do. We're going to take the whole month and really break it down so that you really understand. And it may not be for you, but it may be for a friend. And as you know, when we're on YouTube, we have a library of our videos that will allow you to send your friend who may own their business to our site on Clear Faith Christian Ministries on here on YouTube. And so if it's not fitting you, but you can hear it and you understand it, pass it on. That's what this is all about. And so with that, I'm going to bring on Tracee Holloway. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, I can't hear you. Let me see if it's on my end.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? Okay, great. And I
Yep.
can hear you. All right, good. That's good.
Okay.
Um,
Well, Tracee, welcome.
Welcome and thank you for welcoming me. I appreciate you inviting me on your show, Pastor Devin. It's raining here. The electricity just flashed, so
Hey,
hopefully. Hopefully we don't get disconnected.
Disconnected. Yeah. No, it's raining here in Cedar Hill too.
Is it okay? All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to cut my walk short because I was getting rained on.
It
And
happens.
I didn't need an outside shower, so I said, let me go on back to the house.
Right.
Um, but what we do here, Tracee, just as if you didn't hear what we were saying, it's just a conversation about what you do and how it might help that entrepreneur, help that small business. Looking at it not just from the purpose of it, but also the financial side of it. Hence the name Financial Matters.
Mhm.
So first of all, tell me who you are and what you do and how long you've been doing it.
Well, I am a brand strategist and also a publicist, and I've been doing publicity work and public relations and communications. Can't talk right now though. Um, for over 20 years, I
Okay.
started out as a writer and an editor, and then from that, I kind of ventured into public relations and brand management. So now that's what I'm doing. I started a new business in 2021. So it's 5 years old now, called the Way Up Creative Group. And we service nonprofits and entrepreneurs and small business owners, providing them with brand elevation services to elevate the brand.
Okay. Okay. And you said you've been doing it now 5 years?
The new business is 5 years. I've been doing this for over 20 years, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
you were
actually,
working
before
for
that,
a
I've been on the
company?
company. Say it again.
You were working for a company?
Well, freelance
Okay.
for myself. Yeah, as a freelancer, contractor. And then I did that for over 17 years. And then I started this one 5 years ago. So it's been over
Right.
20 years that I've been
Okay.
doing this type of work altogether.
Okay.
And I started in high school, back in the day when I was in high school, I used to, edit and write for my mom. And, so I just always have loved words and communicating and helping other people express themselves better. And on that written side of things, that's kind of more of my lane.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Okay. And you realized this at in high school.
I
So
did.
did you go to college and all of that, or did you take courses? What was your matriculation?
I did. I went to college at Virginia Union University in Richmond,
Oh,
Virginia.
okay.
VUU. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So yeah, I was an HBCU grad. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Management Information Systems.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, at that time, that was more computer programming, and
Yeah.
it was kind of diving deep into the coding and all of that. But it
Right.
also helped me to learn how to actually organize information. And so when I was
Okay.
really good at it, I did some tutoring with some students while I was a student as well. And
Mhm.
um, yeah, college was an amazing experience. And
Right.
so I
Right.
did graduate with honors, magna cum laude, and
Okay.
so
Okay.
yeah,
Well, the rest of us graduated, thank you, Lottie, from our first college. I didn't get to Magna till I went to grad school, but
that's all
okay.
right. That's all
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Okay. So branding, what is it? That, talk to me like I don't know nothing about nothing, and I'm coming to you to I got this widget that I want to promote, but I don't know a thing about branding. So tell me what branding is 101.
Well, branding and PR are two different things.
Okay.
So branding is that essence of developing the identity for your brand, for your business, for your company. That's branding. It's saying, okay, these are my colors, this is my logo, this is my trademark, this is my website, and how all those things kind of come together to form a look and a
Okay.
feel for who you are and what you're representing. That's your brand.
Okay.
um, PR is a lot different from that. Public relations is not branding, it's not marketing, it's not advertising. PR is really about trust building and
Mm,
reputation management,
okay.
and so that's quite different and distinguishing from branding in itself.
Okay.
So
Okay. So when you I don't want to get into the details because that's going to be next week, but how is what is your approach to the customer? How do you bring the customer into a knowledge who may not have it?
Well, answering the questions, just like what we're doing right now and just having that conversation.
Okay.
I always start with the conversation with whomever it is that I'm going to be working with.
Okay.
And just kind of determining where they are. I don't assume that people know either as much as me or as little as, a brand new beginner. Because, in today's day and age, people are learning at an exponential rate as before.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
access to all sorts of information. So I
Right.
assume that maybe they're on a different level of learning than a new beginner. And then I just kind of go from there. So we just reassess and kind of see, where they are. And
Sure.
I'll answer their questions and see where they need to begin. And so if there's a matter of, where they're starting in their brand, if they're starting from scratch, then we'll go through those questions. If they're already kind of an established brand and want to elevate to another level, we'll go through another set of questions. It just kind of depends on where they are, and I
Okay.
just address it it's kind of custom. It just
Sure.
depends. Yeah, it just
Okay.
depends. Hmm.
Okay. All right. I want to say hello to Erin. She's on one of our faithful followers and
Hey,
kind of
Aaron.
my moderator in the chat room. Uh, so we want to say hello to her. She's out in New Jersey.
Hey, Aaron.
So we want to thank her for being here. Um, so tell me this: how has what you do evolved since you started? What changes have you seen in the industry that has made you have to kind of retool and rebrand yourself with the way technology is going?
Wow, that's a really good question. And it's changed. I think over the last 20 years, I've seen so many changes. I'll just kind of go back the last maybe 4 or 5 years or so.
Okay.
With the onset of AI and the heavy usage of that, it's changed a lot in my
Mm-hmm.
industry. My
Right.
industry, for the most part, used to be very I would say hidden and kind of gated. You
Okay.
know what I mean? It wasn't very reachable. So it was not something that was truly accessible.
Hmm.
And the information and the how to, the knowledge, the connections, and the understanding of what all goes on in this industry of public relations was not widely spread information. But now, people have access to all this information about
Right.
what is PR, how to do it. And all of that. So it's kind of changed. The purpose of it has not changed, but the way that it's done has changed. And
Right.
so me as a publicist, I look at it as well, maybe now my role is less so writing press releases, and maybe it's now more towards strategizing,
Hmm.
and helping them to actually build a strategy on how to build trust across these multiple channels. And that's
Right.
something that an AI um, chat system can't tell you. It can if you ask the right questions, but it can't work with you and customize that with you the way a
Right.
person can do that. So there
Yeah.
has to be some human involvement in that, and I feel like that alone has really changed a lot about the industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so have you? Because when I many moons ago uh did marketing and did I ran a nonprofit for 12 years,
Oh,
and we had to get our name out there and let people know who we were. And you hit it on the head when you said press releases. I
mhm.
remember sitting in my office trying to write a release to send to the paper to put in that, in the ad book.
Yeah.
I was a part of a radio station um, along that same time, and we had to get the ad book and get people to buy ads and pay for ads and all this kind of stuff. That
Yeah.
wasn't my lane. I was more in making sure folks were doing what they were supposed to do. But it was important in radio to get that big ad book, to make sure you had
Right.
all the businesses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
um, but now, when you see radio is now, who listens to radio? Everybody listens to Siri,
Right.
or Pandora on their phone.
Yeah, they're
um,
streaming everything now.
and streaming, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so for the entrepreneur, how why is it important? That's where I want to go. Why is it important to still use the sense of PR and marketing and strategizing to get your name out? Because with the record industry, for example,
Hmm.
now artists don't use labels; they do all their own stuff.
Yeah.
They're not doing, because of streaming. Streaming has
Hmm.
changed everything. You have a lot of independent artists that are just doing stuff on TikTok and Instagram and singing all night and all this kind of stuff. And the more views they get, the more they get, and all this. So the whole game has changed.
It is
So
different.
with that, how would you advise someone like me, as an old head, to get used to this new way of doing things?
Well, it's not so much of getting used to the new way of doing things. It's just kind of, accepting where we are.
Okay.
There's a lot that you can do in this new climate of digital everything, as a kind of traditional or old school business
Hmm.
owner. It all kind of just derives around establishing a sense of trust
Hmm.
with your audience, and building out that confidence in who you are, who your brand is. And that can be done either digitally or traditionally, through word of mouth and networking,
Right.
through your referrals. It's all about how you show up.
Okay.
So even if you're not super heavy on, your knowledge of knowing how to do the digital pieces like social media marketing or advertising, or any of that kind of digital activity, if you're not super savvy on that, you can still build your PR without it.
Okay.
Um, but and PR, really, it's free. It's free to start.
Hmm.
And you can kind of elevate from there, and there's money that can be spent to help you with PR, depending on if you're doing it yourself or if you enlist the help of a professional. But generally speaking, PR is free and it's accessible to everyone.
Okay.
So even
Okay.
as an old school business owner, you can still do your own PR and have it work for you. And there are many benefits to doing that
Right.
now, even now, in the
Okay.
age of AI.
Okay. So what are some of those benefits?
Uh, well, if you think about it like this, when people are engaging your business, they're
Hmm.
looking for essentially two things. They want to know, can they trust you? And they
Hmm.
want to know, are you credible? If you can demonstrate to them that you are trustworthy and credible, then that gives you that foundation of trust
Right.
that you can then build upon to create a conversation with them, to
Okay.
and to then hire you for your services or buy your products. But you have to create that foundation first,
Right.
and that comes with establishing a good public relations strategy for yourself, and identifying what that looks like across the different channels that you do apply your brand. And so most people are applying their brand across digital channels, social media, podcasts, websites,
Hmm.
and the like. But there's still that off digital side, or the traditional side, which is digital. So
Right.
TV, radio, word of mouth, networking, in person, and then also just your engagement with
Hmm.
your clients and your network also demonstrates and carries a message about who you are, and that in itself is also PR. That's public
Sure.
relations. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's free.
Right. Right.
That's
So from your perspective, what PR, public relations, and marketing and branding builds credibility.
The PR can build the credibility and the trust.
Okay.
Marketing, they're all different. So marketing is
Right.
different from PR and
Okay.
advertising and brand building. We've already talked about brand building. That's
Right.
establishing the identity. Marketing itself is really promoting that product or service.
Okay.
Advertising is like the paid method that you do, or paid
Mhm.
activities that you can do to actually get eyes on you. I say
Okay.
advertising is like your attention grabbing activity, right? So it's
Okay.
like, look at me, I'm paying for eyes to look at me. And then from there, you
Sure.
market to them, you're promoting your product or your service, which is all branded, right?
Okay.
But PR is taking it a step further. PR is
Okay.
actually the best foundation for marketing and branding and advertising, because
Okay.
it actually helps establish that credibility. It helps establish your visibility, and you can control your narrative. So in the marketplace, where having a trust and having that trust and that confidence between a
Mhm.
brand and a consumer is so
Mhm.
important, and it can easily be lost. That difference of maintaining that trust between you and your consumer is all about, that's what public relations is about. It's about
Okay.
setting a good foundation of trust. And it's not just what you say is true about you, it's what others say
Yeah.
is
Okay.
true about you. And that's
Right.
what PR helps you do, is to align what others say about you with what you actually are, and you controlling that message.
Okay. Okay. So if I'm a startup and I don't have a track record, but I have a love for the work that I do,
Mm-hmm.
and I came to you, where would you have me start? Would I start with the credibility side, or would I start with the reputation side?
Um, I think you would start with just establishing a strategy of your messaging. So we
Okay.
would start with the narrative of who you are,
Okay.
and who you want people to understand you to be.
Mhm.
Once you
Okay.
develop that, then we look at how do we create an environment of visibility for
Okay.
us to story tell, to tell your story of who you are, without marketing, without advertising,
Hmm.
but to actually earn that credibility
Okay.
outside of, you just knowing who you are. So how do
Right.
people discover who you are? And that comes with reputation building. As you said, that credibility comes from reputation building, but it also comes from consistency in that
Mm.
storytelling, consistency
Okay.
and that message of who are you, and being the same way. I was about to say same person, but same brand,
Hmm. Hmm.
representing the same way everywhere you are. And
Okay.
so that's the importance too of when you have a brand and you have employees who represent your brand. You want to make sure everyone's on the same page and
Okay.
understanding what your message is, so
Right.
that they can carry forth the right message for your company, and it's not
Mhm.
perceived in the wrong way. And then, then you have a whole PR debacle to deal with. And now
Mhm.
you're doing some sort of fixing.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Damage control.
Damage control. Yes.
Yeah.
Reputation management.
Yeah. So in the strategy plan, and again, not getting into the step by steps, but just for the clarity, the importance of the strategy is what?
The
Why is it
importance,
important for me to have a strategy?
it's important to have a strategy so you can know where you're going, what that end story is. So I think of PR as a road that you're traveling on, and you
Okay.
want to have your clients, your customers, your prospects kind of on that same road with you, and not veering off and losing their way, right?
Mhm.
So
Okay.
if trust is in the vehicle with you and you're on this road, then you need to know what your destination is, right? Anytime you go travel, drive from here to San Antonio, you're going to use a map. pretty much. So you can know
Mhm.
exactly which way to go. So PR strategy works that way as well. You need to know the end game of what you
Mhm.
want to represent or how you want your brand to be communicated, how you want people to perceive your brand. And again, it
Mhm.
needs to align with your underlying narrative about your brand.
Okay.
And so that's what the strategy is for. It helps you to build out that roadmap so that along the way you'll know, if this situation comes up, this is how we'll address this because this is the culture that we have within our industry or within
Mhm.
our brand.
Okay.
But you have to establish that, and you want to go and you want to have a roadmap, a plan of action to kind of
Right.
keep you on target, keep you focused, keep your messaging on brands as well. And it's not
Okay.
just for you; it's for your employees to understand who you are,
Mhm.
and them to follow that strategy as well. And it also helps with your marketing because again, PR is a great foundation for that, and
Right.
getting your messaging right. But if you don't strategize and you don't have that plan, it's very unclear who you
Sure.
are. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So
yeah.
one of the things that we talk about when I do relationships counseling and things like that is that the first thing you start with is your purpose.
Hmm.
What is your purpose? And then from your purpose you develop a vision. And from that vision you develop a process. From that process you develop a timeline. And then from that, I'm sorry, not in relationship, in leadership.
Hmm.
Then you establish a timeline and then you establish patience.
Hmm.
And so what you're saying is very similar to leadership development. So in the work that you do you find that you're becoming more not just the person that can do the work, but the coach to help build the person as well as the brand or the product and things like that?
It has become a little bit of that. Yeah. I think
Hmm.
that also comes from the media experience that I have.
Okay.
And then, just working with founders and leaders and owners, especially
Hmm.
those who are involved in community and
Okay.
those who have visibility and are using their brand and their story and telling their story in podcasting or interviews or they are a thought leader on some subject in their industry. When I have clients of that nature, of course, I'm working with them to make sure that we have a solid message. We know what our points are that we try to have them stick to, and how to navigate those conversations to stay not
Mhm.
only on target, but also to make sure that they, maintain the PR aspect of that, the
Right.
foundational message of who their brand is and what it represents. So we
Okay.
do some coaching for leaders and for founders or speakers as well. I think that's
Mhm.
important to help navigate these conversations that may need to be had.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So would you say that um, what you do crosses many industries, and there's a kind of a common road, for lack of a better word, not specific to, it's always custom,
Yeah.
but the theme of what you do crosses many different industries.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that PR is an industry uh, inclusive activity.
Okay.
If you're doing business and you're out there and people can find you, if they can search for your name on Google, if they know of you and can find you in any way, PR is already working either
Okay.
for you or against you, whether or not
Okay.
you're involved, and that's any industry, right?
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you're a financial planner or an insurance person or a marketeer or someone selling crocheted goods on Etsy. It doesn't matter. If
Right.
people can find you and they know you're in business, then your reputation and your PR is already at work.
Okay.
So, and this is it's cross functional against yeah, it's cross industries. Yeah.
Right. Okay, okay.
for
So
sure.
now I'm gonna throw the curve at you.
Oh no.
In the last 15 minutes or 14
Hit me.
minutes we have,
All right.
do you feel that what you do would be beneficial to the church?
Oh yeah, I do. I do.
Okay,
The church
okay.
as a whole or
As a
individual?
whole,
Yes, the church as
either
a
way.
whole.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
For
Why?
sure. Okay, so there's a conversation being had. Now, this is off topic from my business, right?
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
as a believer, I can say that I've noticed this. There's a conversation being had in social media and in the digital space that church is not what it used to be.
Okay.
You know what
Okay.
I mean? And so
Yeah.
there's a disconnect between believers going to church, new Christians and all the fellowship that we used to have is different. It's also
Mm-hmm.
different. Church services now are different. The music is different. Gospel industry is different. Christian
Right.
music is different. There's more of an acceptance across everywhere, every culture of different
Mm-hmm.
religions and a tolerance for these things.
Right.
So the church, and I'm speaking of the Christian church,
Mm-hmm.
I believe could use a PR makeover. I really truly do, and I'm glad you asked this
Mm-hmm.
question too because I think about it like this. Do you remember that I don't know what you would call a PR campaign or whatever it was. I don't forget how it originated, but it was "What would Jesus do?"
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
WWJD.
There were
Yeah.
bracelets and they had
Yep.
t-shirts and it was everywhere, right?
Right.
That
Right.
that in itself is a whole marketing campaign for
Correct.
Jesus,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
People have been calling for a revival. They're calling for change. They're calling for Christians to speak up, and it's not coordinated, in a way where it's unified.
Right.
And so
Okay.
that's where that PR strategy would come in
Yeah.
handy for the church.
Right. Right.
Getting the leaders of the faith together to, come together and settle on a strategy for
Mm-hmm.
how to get a collective message out to the masses
Right.
that adequately and accurately tells the story of Christianity, of the faith, of the church and the importance of the church, the foundations of
Mm-hmm.
the church, and being consistent with that message. So
Mm-hmm.
thereby we might actually get, a reassurance,
Mm-hmm.
of the credibility of the
Right.
story, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
and it could actually change where we are now, where we have, disconnected, disenchanted people.
Yeah. And
So
and
good,
and
good solid.
I raised that question because, as I said in the intro, very few pastors have a business degree. And so they don't see, I've always said that there's the business of church
Yeah,
and there's that saving souls and making disciples. But then there's church as a business
that's true.
because you're paying people, you got utility bills, you got budgets and all of that. Because when you close the door on Sunday, you literally have a nonprofit organization.
Yeah,
And in that nonprofit organization, you have to manage people. You have to make sure your message is clear. You have to make sure people are engaged, just like a business. And
right.
a lot of times in denominations, because I've been in ministry 37 years, two denominations, okay, it's the same problem.
Mhm.
Um, we are not good at branding. We're not good at having a consistent message. We're not good at, a PR person in the church is the person that makes the announcements.
Hmm.
That's the PR person,
Okay.
because they're relating to the public. I mean,
Right.
we take the name literally. Okay, your job is to relate to the public. So you're
Right.
our
I
public
hear you.
relations person.
I
I'm
hear
like,
you.
that's not public relations.
It's more than that.
And in rooms that I sit in, it's like, what are we doing? The reason, well, an elder told me this a long time ago, a friend of mine, he said, It's not that the message is bad, it's that we have poor advertising.
I don't
Is
know
that,
about advertising.
well, it was back in the day when it
Gotcha.
was,
Mm-hmm.
this was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's it's the messaging, it's the product. What
Mm-hmm.
are we marketing? Are we marketing the pastor? Are we marketing the kingdom? And these are questions that a lot of pastors don't want to have because it requires them to think deeper than they do.
True.
And if they don't know, how them men are. I won't say us men. Them men are. They don't want to admit that they need help. God will provide. Well, God might provide through a person.
True.
If you know what your strategy is, what having a vision meeting in January of every year is not what you do every year. It's breaking it down. What is the budget? How are we marketing? How are we getting the word out? It's not, well, in February we're going to do the same thing we did last February. We're just going to put different colors on it.
Mm.
Come on, and the last thing I always tell people, if you really understand the kingdom concept from a business perspective, there was a book, and I don't even know if this book is in print anymore, Jesus as CEO.
Hmm.
And what it had in it, it was like the book like this, and I don't know what happened to it, but I remember the chart that it had in it
Mm-hmm.
of how the church was supposed to be. And really what it was God was at the top,
Yeah.
Jesus was underneath, the Holy Spirit was underneath, and then the disciples were broken out, the 12 disciples, and then it broke down to, it was always almost multi-level marketing.
Hmm.
They would tell two, and they would tell two, and they would tell two,
Okay.
but the same message always funneled up. And the message that you were giving was disseminated amongst the people or the franchise. So
Right.
it was like McDonald's, if you really think about it. You get a Big Mac here is the same as a Big Mac next, 2 states away.
That's true.
The arches. McDonald's has gotten so crazy now that they don't even have McDonald's anymore. They just have the little red thing and the arches on some.
Fact.
They don't say McDonald's anymore.
That's right.
But you know it because it's a brand. You know it. Wherever you go, that's McDonald's. You go someplace else, that's Burger King. Well, the
Right.
same thing was supposed to happen with the church.
Yeah.
No matter what church you go into, you getting the same message, you getting the same belief system, you getting the same who you supposed to serve and how you supposed to serve. Because we only got one book, and it's called the Bible, and we all supposed to be preaching from it. But
Amen.
over time, it right. Well, hey, this is a Christian show.
Right.
But over time, we've got into this thing of, well, I'll just say what I want to say, and I'm not going to talk to the person over there, and I'm not going to talk to that church over there because they don't believe like I believe. And it's like, what we wonder why our communities are the way they are. It's because we, the church, not the building, but the individual, is not presenting a product that is enticing, that people want to know more about it.
Well, that goes to your point about the need for a PR strategy in the church.
Yes.
And the representation you remember from that book about the hierarchy of it.
Yeah.
I think, from me, what I'm hearing and what I've noticed also is that there has been a break off from that initial hierarchy into this, popularity kind of flow.
Right.
And there's many reasons for that. But I
Sure.
believe that PR strategy, or to regroup the
Mm-hmm.
faith, comes from us using Jesus again as that center message,
Right.
and building that strategy around his message, around that,
Mm-hmm.
versus the message of this church and this pastor's belief and this, their community mission, or
Right.
that it's starting with the main thing as the main thing.
Yeah.
And then from there you say, okay, how does this feed into our main message?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so that would be a very interesting, message, or that would be a very interesting experiment for somebody to do, to take on and do. I think that would
Well,
be fun.
here's the method to my madness.
Hmm.
I think that because this podcast kind of goes to it's geared toward Christian people. Even though you don't have to be Christian to be on my show, but that's my audience.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really probing you to make people think about what's really going on in their church. It's a back doorway,
Mm.
because here's the thing: the mismessaging of the church, would you say, could also feed into the mismessaging of a product or a person or a business? That if you don't have your message right, the possibility of you being successful is slim on the business side.
Yes, absolutely. And the reason for that is, if your messaging is not right and it's not aligned with what's out there and what people are perceiving your message to be, if
Hmm.
it's not congruent,
Hmm.
then you're allowing others to tell your story. And
Hmm.
so that's kind of what's happening now with the church, in a way, the church overall, in a way,
Yes.
is that
Yes.
others are starting to define Christianity for
Right.
Christians. And they're saying, you guys are church folk, you do this, you do that, and all of that. Well, it's not
Hmm.
ever been really about how people are. It's always been about Jesus, who Jesus
Right.
is.
Right.
So that message, that initial foundational message, needs to be re-strategized as a
Hmm.
collective,
Hmm.
made visible again, and then that will
Hmm.
start to add credibility, not to the churches or the pastors, but
Right.
that credibility again to the story of Jesus and the
Right.
importance of that, in the faith that we follow. So I really feel like that's the main kicker for churches, is to actually get back to that main message, that underlying
Hmm.
foundational message, and tell the narrative as it was meant to be told.
Sure. Sure. And again, I see such a parallel with what the church is, and just what an every not an act, just your everyday business owner
Yeah.
has to go through, because say for example, I've been in the business for years, but I'm not getting the traction that I thought I got in before. So
Mhm.
somewhere I got to say I got to change my what strategy,
You got to change it.
and I think that's where the parallel is with the church, because the church hasn't changed its strategy, because it should evolve as generations come, but the brand message should not change, because like you said, you're letting others determine what you do versus this is what we do, and
Right.
you have to make the choice. I'm not going to capitulate so that I can get you. And one of the things I said last night, then we'll wrap up, on my show last night teaching, I said it is not my the church should not be making members. The church should be making disciples, because if you make disciples, then you're fulfilling the commission, and if you're fulfilling the commission, then you're going to grow organically, because each one reach one to teach one,
Right.
as opposed to having a marketing strategy, which means we got to have the lights and the cameras and the action and the
To
stage
make
and
it
the
marketable.
platform to draw
Right.
based on sight versus heart.
Hmm.
So
That makes
I well,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm just crazy enough to try to make it happen. So
I'll work
with
with
that,
you.
amen. So thank you for this first week.
You're so welcome.
And I was flipping back and forth to make sure I was hitting your notes that you sent me. So I think we
Me
hit the
too.
first
Me
week
too.
real well. And we'll be back next week, same time. And I believe we will be covering establishing importance, is what you had in the notes that you gave me, and I want to stick to the notes. So we'll be talking, get a little deeper into how do you create that strategy, and
Yeah.
what comes first, because again, this is PR. I'm working with another guy, and I said, you got to teach me like this is PR for dummies. I mean, it's like I don't have a clue. So walk us from the beginning to the end. And that's what we're going to do next week, from the time
Yeah.
we come in to the time we put it out into whatever the market is. So thank
That
you.
works. You're so welcome. Yeah, I can't wait to meet with you guys next week too and talk about that importance and why it's important for
Yes.
PR in any business, industry, church, brands as well. I think that's very, very good to do. So we'll do that and looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thank you again, Tracee Holloway. And tell the name of your company again.
The name of my company is The Way Up Creative.
Okay.
The Way Up, and it's developed as a Christian faith based name. Jesus is the way up. I'm showing people how to elevate their brands, and also, just living out my faith and my truth in that process. So,
Okay. All
yeah.
right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Tracee. You're going to see her for the next 2 weeks, next week and the following week. So please tell a friend and tell your enemies too, because they probably need it more than your friends do. And come on back next week on the Clear Faith Christian Ministries channel on YouTube for Financial Matters with Tracee Holloway. Why? Because financials matter. Until next time, may God's richest and greatest blessings be yours. Peace.